All right, what's going on, guys? It's Josh again with a Bitcoin video. I saw this Gallup poll that came out. If you guys aren't familiar with Gallup and what they do, it's pretty well known, it's pretty official. Really caught my attention. It got some good numbers. So I want to talk about this and what it means, but also the opportunity for you guys who are holding Bitcoin and want to get into it and the long term scale, and also some of the errors that come along here with surveys. Now, as always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, drop a like, and turn on the post notifications so you don't miss any of these videos. And also check out the free stock trading course below in the link in the bio, no, in the description. But there's that. And also, too, I've seen people, if you think this is, I've been told, oh, another random YouTuber kid who doesn't know anything about this making videos on Bitcoin. I've been in finance my whole life. I have over 11 years of trading experience. Go look through my YouTube videos before you open your mouth, and you will see I was talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum and Ripple well before even this whole bubble last year and they went in. I got my Ripple at pennies. I got my Ethereum at $8. I had Bitcoin at 300. So, and that's not even to mention what I've done in the stock market and real estate, and the whole point of what I do is compare and use my knowledge from the stock market to look at it with Bitcoin, but that's not all I discuss is Bitcoin. So I want to get that clear for you guys, especially if you're new, kind of see where I'm coming from and why. But getting into this was a crazy statistic that they said that only 2% of investors own Bitcoin, but 26% said they are interested. Now, that's also very, interesting because what does that say about everybody else? And here are the stats. So 72% say they would never own Bitcoin. And two, let me even talk about how they got this poll, before we get into this, because I don't want this to make it seem like, okay, well, no one's going to buy Bitcoin, this and that, or okay, I think there is an opportunity with Bitcoin. But what I am trying to say here is polls can be skewed. It is only taking a certain sample size. They got a lot of investors from this, but it's people who are, I'm pretty sure, invested. It says US adults with 10,000 or more invested in stocks, bonds, or mutual funds. They surveyed them in May. So again, this was even before this was when shit was dying. But even then, there's going to be a limited source. Not everyone's going to respond, and they have to have more than 10,000 in stocks, bonds, or mutual funds. So it's giving you guys the context of it. But that being said, there can be errors. It gives us a lot of information. I think any information is great, but it could also be skewed a little bit. But now 72% have no interest in buying Bitcoin, which has shocked me, to be honest. 26 are intrigued but won't be buying anytime soon. And then 2% currently own Bitcoin, will probably buy Bitcoin in the near future, is less than 0.5%. So I thought that was interesting. Another fact it said was that men, they outnumbered very highly, that men know more about Bitcoin than women. And then also, this was another fact here. I think it was actually a little bit below here. I'll get to that. But we'll go to the next slide. People are saying limiting, little is known about Bitcoin except it's risky. So 3 in 4 investors consider Bitcoin to be very risky. What is your view about the risk level of Bitcoin? 75% said very risky, 23% said somewhat risky, and 2% said not too risky. So again, going back to these and all of this, as you guys see, why I think this is good for Bitcoin and also bad. One, with only 2% of traditional investors owning it, there's still a lot of money that could pour in. And I also think it just, go back to Amazon, go back to Facebook. It was the same thing. These were the same statistics, not numbers wise, but the same sort of polls they did for people with stocks like Facebook. And when new technology came out, they said, would you invest in Facebook? A lot of people said no, and only a small percentage was. And people would say, yeah, it's very risky, So you're seeing kind of the landscape, some of the hurdles Bitcoin needs to go, but you're also seeing where other investors are putting their interest at. And for me, I see opportunity, but again, I'm one of those, and it even explains it here. Awareness differs by age and gender. Men and younger investors are far more likely than women and seniors to say they know anything about Bitcoin or other digital currencies. Related to the age differences, investors with less than 100,000 investments are more likely to be familiar with innovation with those than those that actually have more than that. I think I skipped it. Here it is. Bitcoin is yet to make significant inroads in any major US subgroup, yada, yada, yada. While ownership is more common among wealthier investors, just 3% of those earning 90% or more owning Bitcoin, compared less with the 1% of lower income investors. So when they were looking at it, and they break it down here how people own it, but I'll go down that so you can see more young people know about it. So if you're younger, you're in, and but then it makes sense. You're going to have less likelihood to have more investments. You're not going to have a stock savings account. You're not going to have a retirement account. So younger guys, there it is. You got to be smart. But in general, people with more money own Bitcoin. Out of these small percentage that owns it, majority of them are going to be people who have more money. And that's good and bad because it makes a lot of sense. People with more money can take more risk. So I believe in it, and you guys see kind of my view on it. I think it's all good and dandy, but I have a decent amount of money. I have a lot of money saved up. I have a lot of money I could throw towards anything I want really, and it's not going to really hurt me. That's how I set my investments aside with Bitcoin and crypto when I first started. It just made too much sense not to, but for somebody who doesn't have as much assets, you only have 10,000 in savings. It's not really smart to put 20% into something considered very risky. And you guys have even seen how history has played out with this. So it is an opportunity. Again, be smart as always. And like I said, if you guys saw my other video on Bitcoin, make a plan. You make an earnings plan, take your income, all the money you make, set aside 5-10%. Little by little, make sure you're setting up a good plan to buy it, but that you could still live comfortably, and it's just not anything too crazy. And so that is something interesting. Now, men and younger investors most familiar. Let's see, by gender, know something about Bitcoin. 38% of men know about Bitcoin, while only 20%. So that's like 3 in 10 men, almost 4 in 10 men know about Bitcoin, while only 2 in 10 women know. 30% of men are more intrigued, 3 in 10 of men versus 2 in 10 of the women. But ages, as you see, the men 18 to 49, half of them know almost. While you get a little bit older, they don't know. The women is pretty high for the younger women, but as you get older, the percentages are pretty the same. And now you see total invested assets. If you have 100,000 plus, you knew about it. Less than 100,000, 4. So 4 in 10 people with less than 100K know about it, while only 2 out of 10 people who have more than 100 grand know about it. And then the women, again, just to do, it's interesting to see that women do not know as much about this, but it makes sense. My demographic on YouTube, I think I only have 10% women followers. So again, it just, even that's one of the sad parts of the stock market. A lot of women haven't got into that. So share this video with a woman that you know in your life, a special somebody. But it's funny because they talk about the price of Bitcoin, saying that pretty much a lot of people still don't know about it. People will argue it's going to go up, but as of now, you guys see the stats. A lot of people invested don't know. So let's go down to the study methods to see. Said were investors' retirement optimism index. It was a web survey, 1,900 investors, and so it's only 2,000 people who answered. So it's pretty interesting. Sampling error 5.4% at a 95% confidence level. So statistically, it's fairly accurate, but that is, I think, the third tier of statistics. There's 95, then 97.9 or 97.2, then 99%. So it's a little far out there. The standard deviation of error is pretty high. If you're saying only 3% no and there's a plus or minus 5.4 percentage points, it could be a lot higher. And people have said that there's about 9% of investors know, but this is recent. I think it's interesting, and it gives you guys a heads up, because even when you see a lot of traditional people don't know about Bitcoin yet, and if you know about it, keep learning about it, know more, and think about the advantages you have in the front end, but also understand the risks and understand that Bitcoin, or at least I think Bitcoin, again, I always say it, Bitcoin's going to be here. Even if it dies for a little bit, I think it's always going to pop back up, and it's going to, it has its value. I think it has a lot of intrinsic value to a degree. And, I say that with caution so you guys know how to interpret that. But at the end of the day, I think it's good. I don't think the other cryptos, I think some altcoins may not have, I'm not as confident, although I do own them. But Bitcoin itself, the blockchain, I think it's here to stay. And I just think the opportunity is a lot of people don't know about it. And this is clearly outlined in many, many areas, ways, shapes, and forms. So if you do know about Bitcoin and you do know about it, take advantage of that, take advantage of the time value, but also be smart. That's how I bought my Bitcoin over the years. I bought it over the years, little by little, saved up, put it in there, nothing too crazy, and I let that work for me. I treated it like a long-term stock, and that's what I see this as. I see this as buying Facebook back in the day. I see this as buying Amazon, Google, Apple, all that. You got to have patience, got to set it up. I'm not really a big fan of the trading and going after, these big monies and trying to flip it, go for these ICOs, all that. Just treat it as what it is, a real solid investment for what it could be. Understand the risks and understand that you do get a knowledge, there's a knowledge gap and you get an advantage of that. A lot of people don't know about it. You know about it. Educate yourself and be smart with your money. So hope you guys are safe. Be smart. Again, drop a sub, drop a comment. I love you all.